So, if you have one
Oh,
child,
sure.
if you have one child and you're raising your child and you're parenting, right? So you're actively, sort of helping them learn how to be in the world, and they develop some traits, and then you just don't know, right? Was this something I did in my parenting, or were they just like that? And then you have
Right.
another child, right? And they're like, you can do exactly the same things, and you can see that they're very different in many ways.
Right.
So so that's this, and a striking kind of example that we really aren't blank slates, that we do have a psychological predisposition. And then the question is, okay, what do we make of that, right? So what do we make of it as observers of somebody, but what does the person themselves make of it in the world, right? So how do they meet the world
Hmm.
um, on their own terms, given the way that their mind works, and
Right.
how do they adapt to the world in the culture that they find themselves in, through the experiences that they have, and so on. So it's very much a trajectory, as opposed to any kind of a fixed state that just determines how you are.
Right.
It's more a
Well,
matter of shaping and influencing.
I was going to say, I imagine there's, from what you're saying, there's a bit of the equation for how much you also subscribe to the, Dr. Carol Dweck's idea of mindset. If you're a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, whereas if you go through the world thinking that you are the victim of your genetics, you're only going to be like this, there is nothing, you kind of write your own script. Where if you think that it is possible to learn more, to meet different people, to move locations if you need an environment change, etc., or even if it's to get out of a house or a relationship to change the environment, like all of those things will probably lead you to growth. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck. So it's amazing how these concepts that just happen, that we happen to pick up. Maybe we meet someone at a party and they say this thing, or they give a book to us, and it kind of can change the trajectory. So have you seen, like, even ideas can really change this outcome?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, this is one of the sort of the deepest questions that we have, is like, am I in a sense trapped by the way that I am? And that's very much where the free will kind of question comes in. That I'm
Right.
just carrying out my pre-programming, or do I have an opportunity in some sense to actively reflect on that and say, actually, I don't want to behave like this, and I'm going to try to change. And of course, people, that's the sort of struggle that people are having all the time,
Sure.
and it's difficult, right? So it's effortful to change some underlying characteristic. And what I would say is that actually, most of the time we don't. So, for example, I might say, I might be a shy person, and I say, I wish I was more extroverted. Now, I probably can't make myself more extroverted, but I can adapt and sort of train myself with an effort to be
Hmm.
more outgoing, right? To
Right.
just almost pretend to be more extroverted in some sort of social situations, for example. So it's a question of, like, not that we can retune the underlying things, but those are just the baseline of what affects how we actually behave. And we
Hmm.
do have absolutely a possibility of intervening on the sort of more the habits that we've fallen into, which, again, sometimes they're not easy to change. That's why they're habits, but
Right.
they're not written in stone necessarily.